Hey there gamers, today we have a preview of Lord of Loot. Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Cud channel. It's Professor Meg here, and today we have a preview of Lord of Loot by PKB Games. Now, this is a sponsored video. This is also an upcoming crowdfunding campaign, so you can check out the Kickstarter link below for everything that they have planned, and this is also a prototype copy in front of me, so all components, rules, things like that are subject to change. But Lord of Loot is actually going to be a cooperative game where you're a party of ragtag adventurers where the Royal Guards are just not doing good enough, where your land was pretty peaceful for a while, but there are these monster portals and monsters are starting to arrive again, and all of the guards seem to not be doing much about it, so it's up to you and your party to run around, gather loot, upgrade yourselves, get to higher levels to not only fight off the monsters, but to ultimately beat the bosses, because all of the bosses that you play with in this game are going to have different quests, and they're all going to feel very unique. So as a team together, you're not only working on upgrading your character, getting stronger and stronger, but the end game that you're working toward are all of these clever quests that have unique twists that you're going to be playing through. Now here we have the game set up for 3 players, but I do only have 1 player board showing here to give you an example of what that is going to look like. So on the board, you can see that it starts off with a bunch of empty spaces in these fields, and they're also connected by all of these different pathways. So when players are moving around the board, as well as monsters and bosses, they have to move along the paths, and they're not able to move from spot to spot if they are not connected. Now, ultimately, what you're going to be doing is using your actions to move around the board, uncover tiles like this that are going to get you stronger and stronger, because you're going to need things like food just to make it through the day. You're going to want things for like first aid to help heal anything bad that happens to you, but there's also weapons and shields and spells for you to be digging through and getting to upgrade your character and be stronger to be able to knock out the threats that are coming out toward you, because as you can see from these standees here, some of them are part of the quest, but some of them are bosses, and some of them are those guards that I mentioned. Now, the guards you are able to fight to kind of gain additional things, but you'll also gain loot whenever you fight monsters, which will also be spawning onto the board. Now, this is certainly one of those games where you start off with your bosses in play, but there are no other monsters yet. But in this game, after every single player's turn, you're going to then draw a monster card. Now, this does actually change in a 4 or 5 player game. When you're playing with more players, you draw every other person, and there's a whole system to keep track of that. But regularly, you're going to be drawing a monster for every player turn. So you're going to draw a monster card, and that doesn't mean that monsters necessarily spawn, but it more often means that they're going to be moving around and attacking, whether it's the monsters or the bosses, and it's going to be how monsters are getting out onto the play area. So to break it down even more, at the beginning of a player's turn, they need to be able to pay a food token, or else they're going to lose a health. Now, the health system in this game is also very unique, where you have some health that is related to your first aid and some health that is related to your stamina, and you'll always lose health from your left to your right, but you can see where certain things can only heal specific things. So for example, this apple will only be able to heal your stamina, which would be these hearts here, whereas something like first aid would be able to heal your health. So at the beginning of your turn, you have to be able to pay that food, or you would lose a health here, unless you're in one of these blue spots, because those provide food for you, which is great. So you definitely have to be worrying about food in this game and what you were able to scavenge from the different areas. And then after that, players are going to be able to perform 4 different actions. Now, of those 4 actions, you can repeat them in any way that you choose. So for example, you can move, attack, and then move and move, or you could move 4 times, or you could do 4 unique actions, etc. There's no limit to which action you can use, it's just that you can use up to 4 per turn. So the first one is going to be the easiest first and foremost, which is going to be moving. So to move from one spot to another in adjacent field, which is again connected from a pathway, that is going to be one of your actions. And then additionally, a player can move again, and then in this spot here, we would be able to uncover a field tile. So this is an action for you to be able to do, whereas you can see players can also be maneuvering around on these empty spaces, but once they choose to use that action, you're going to be able to flip a tile here, and that player is going to be able to immediately gain that benefit. So this one here is going to be drawing a black token from the bag, and the black tokens are going to be your shields and swords. Now, there is a little bit of a system where you have to be a specific level to be able to use certain things, and we do already have a shield, which is nice, but here you can see that, or well, I guess this was a different player, but this is a shield that actually has a silver background, meaning that you have to be at least level 2, which is the same with the silver, which is very easy for you to keep track of when you're playing, and that's how you know what you are able to use. Now there are 2 sides to each thing as well, which I will get into more when we're looking at this character over here, but just know that there are also things like your level 3, and then you're going to have level 3 gold weapons as well. But to give you an example of a wooden weapon, here is an axe here, which is one that if we had drawn this from the bag, we would be able to equip it and use it right away. Now, other things are able to be stored in your backpack, so you can hold on to them, but if you are able to equip them, you can, and that will give you additional dice when you're attacking. Now, this is a great example because when we flipped this tile, we were able to gain this benefit immediately, and as you can see, there's no black circle here on this one, but on the tile before this that the other player unlocked, you can see that there's a black circle with an arrow. That's another action that players are able to do, is that if you are on a field that has a symbol with that circle, you're able to activate it again. So you're able to exploit that area, and then you could gain that benefit. So for example, this character here can actually draw 2 spells when they draw one, so it might be great for them to move there on a future turn to draw 2 spells using this ability. Now, other actions that players are able to do is pick up items from their area. For example, you can see we have 2 bosses here and they've been dropping some items as they've been moving, and players for an action can pick up anything from their spot. Now, another part of the quest for this pet napper here is going to be picking up this cat, so players can also move here to pick up the cat, and it would cost them an action to be able to place them into their inventory as well. So that's something that players will be able to do. And another thing that you're able to do as an action is swap with players in your spot. So if it was this character here's turn and everyone was sharing a spot with them, they would be able to trade with everyone, including just giving or just taking, but they would have to be involved in all of those trades. So you are able to trade in that sense because this is a cooperative game, and especially with the different levels and things that players are going to be drawing, you're going to be wanting to shuffle things around to be as strong as possible because monsters are really going to start popping up around the board everywhere as you are starting to spawn them. Now, finally, the last action you're able to do is attack, because you want to be able to attack these different things between the guards, the monsters, and the bosses. So, for example, if it was this character's turn over here, they would be able to move 2 spots up here to this guard and then engage them in a battle. Now, when you fight a guard, they fight with an orange die, which is what heroes start off with as well. So, assuming that this hero here as well only had 1 orange die, they would roll orange dice up against each other. Now, I will show you what that looks like, but more often than not, the monsters are going to be rolling the purple die. So this one's going to be for our hero character. Oh, they rolled a sword, and this one is going to be for our guard, and they rolled nothing. So you can see where that matches up, that the sword is going to go through and do a damage, and the guards only have 1 health. So you would be able to collect the rewards that are here on the standee, which is going to be a token from the black bag and a token from the yellow bag, and then this is removed from the map. Now, when players fight monsters that are a higher level than them, that's actually how you would increase your own level. So if you were to fight a level 2 monster, you need to do 2 damage to be able to kill it, but once you do, you would then be able to upgrade yourself to a level 2 hero. Now, just to give a more exciting combat example, we'll take one of our green monsters over here, and he would be rolling 2 die. So he would roll 2 purple die as the monster, and if we were playing with this character here, we would be able to roll 2 orange die, as well as some defense die. So first things first, we'll take our 2 oranges, and we will also have an automatic blue die for our shield here that we would be able to roll. But on top of that, players will be effective to different types of monsters. So this axe actually wants to attack purple monsters, and this one is a green, but we get 2 additional blue dice when shielding against a green creature. So that's really great for us. So we will roll the 2 die for the monster, and then we will roll all of these dice for us. And see where they land. So you'll match them up, and you can see where they have a shield and we have a sword, they have a sword and we have a shield, and we didn't really roll much else to be able to do that. So you can see where everything pretty much broke even, and we weren't able to be effective for this monster, but if we were able to get through at least 1 point of damage, then you would track the damage done to them. So there are these little things that hang pretty well on the monsters, and if they happen to be higher than a level 1, you'll want want to track how much damage is done to them, because you'll be able to either attack them again or other players can attack them for you in the future. So generally the pace of play is going to be that players are going to use those 4 actions they have available to move around the board, uncover tiles, because you're going to be wanting to gain the benefits that are on there, although some of them it may spawn monsters on you, so you have to be careful. But you're going to be wanting to uncovering these different areas that are going to give you benefits. And then on top of that, again, you're going to keep your food in mind, your health in mind, where you're landing, and these bosses are going to be maneuvering around the board on top of the monsters that are spawning and moving toward you. So you're going to be working together as a team, but it can feel quite hectic pretty quickly because you are drawing a monster card after everyone's turn. So you're going to have those 4 actions where in the beginning you're going to be lower level, but you are going to have a lot of freedom in the map where you're going to be able to move around, have anything that you're able to do, but then pretty quickly you're going to have a lot of things that you have to start taking out because the monsters are going to start spawning and there's actually a time clock that you have to beat. So I'm going to show that to you next, but there's this deck of cards over here and that's what you're flipping over to determine what the monsters are doing. So this is showing you that last turn the bosses moved, they dropped 2 items, and then they fought if there was anyone to fight, but there was not. And then after the next player's turn, the bosses would move and fight, meaning that they would actually fight over here, and then the monsters would actually move and fight as well. So the guards actually are not included in that. The guards don't ever move and fight, but they will engage in battle with you for you to steal those little bits from them. But monsters would move and fight. And then here is an example where, so this actually shows where the daytime would move around, where this kind of triggers where different monsters are going to be spawning in the different areas of the fields where you can see. But this is going to spin this around and then spawn a monster. So a monster is going to spawn in this area. And to do so, you're going to roll this die. So as I said, there are the different colors for the different monsters, and there's also the different levels. So that would be a level 3 green, which is huge. So that's going to be this guy over here, and he is going to be spawned over in this area here where this player is. Now, the time clock that I mentioned is this deck is not very big. So we've already gone through 3 cards and there's only 3 left, but cards will be added to this deck. So you have these cards, they will all be flipped over, and once you can't draw again, you'll actually draw from these red cards instead. So you have a red pile where you'll draw one of these cards, add it to the discard pile with all of the cards that have been revealed. You're then going to shuffle that up and form for yourself a new draw pile. So you're only able to do that 3 times. As you can see, there's only 2 other cards here to be added. And then after that, when you aren't able to do that reset function, players will lose the game. So that is the clock that you are set to. And it may seem like a lot, but it is actually very, very quick because again, you are drawing them after every player's turn. Now, the other way for players to lose the game is if you die more than twice. Now, that might sound a little complicated, but when players die, they have to create a new character or grab a new character, and they start off in the starting area at level 1 again with no things. So it is very bad for you to die, but sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it's unstoppable. And when that happens, you actually take this little gravestone piece and you're going to place it out on the board. So to track that for you when someone dies, you can track that they died, and when a second player dies, you flip it over to show those 2 gravestones. Now, once you aren't able to show any more gravestones, once a third player dies and you can't flip this token anymore, that's when players will lose the game as well. Now, finally, to give you a sense of the bosses and their quests, you can see that we have 2 bosses here. There is the pet one, and there's also Gilliam, who is a fish, and you're trying to do different things to try to take them out. So for this one here, the pet napper, you're trying to pick up this cat who is very nice and easy, and they will just go into your belongings, and then you have to deliver them up to this nice lady over here. There's also this creature here, and to be able to move them, they actually follow food. So if you have food in your pack and you start moving, they will follow with you. But there's also a hound. Oh, and sorry, this one is going over to this girl here. And then there's a hound that is trying to get up to this boy over here. And this hound is actually afraid of fire. So if you move into his spot with fire, or even if you just attack him, you're able to start moving him out towards the little boy. But the thing that is the most important part about all of these quests for the bosses is you can't even touch the bosses. You can't fight them. You can't, well, they can fight you and you can defend, but that's really all you can do. You can't do any damage to them until it is then all of the quests are done. So for this one here, you would have to complete all 3 of those quests to be able to do any damage at all, and then players would have to be able to do 4 damage to them to be able to take him out. But on top of that, you're trying to fight Gilliam as well. So for him, you need to uncover a pond tile that is a circle. So that is also very difficult. You can see here we have this tile here and this tile here, but flipping these over to show you a few more. This is one that would have spawned a monster. And here we have one that is a pond tile. So if this is one that was flipped over by a player, you'd be able to stop in this spot and drop fish. And as soon as there are 2 fish here, that quest is also completed, and then you're able to damage him as well. But the good thing about the quests, which is pretty special, is when you complete a quest, you're able to draw from a bag of your choice. So the different bags, again, are going to be your weapons and your shields. You'll also have spells that you're able to do, and you have different items that you're drawing. So you're able to choose which one of those you want to draw from and then draw. So items are going to be very, very helpful for you to not only heal yourself, but some of them are going to be components for your spells. And spells are going to be very unique because those you're going to be able to do during any player's turn. So usually you're following those actions and the pace of play, and as you noticed when I went over the actions, I didn't mention spells, because spells you're able to trigger when you need to, because the most important part is you need the components to be able to do it. So you are kind of limited in that sense anyway, and then you're able to start slinging these spells to be able to help your friends. So for example, you can see this spell here is that this player can choose to either pay a fire or a bones to draw a spell from the bag, but again, their special abilities that they actually draw 2 spells from the bag instead, so that's very, very nice, but they would have to have those components available to be able to do that spell. Another fun spot is going to be the blacksmith. So you are able to use this spot to upgrade your different items that you have. So where I said you have your shield and you are able to upgrade it, if you went to the blacksmith and did so, instead of your shield adding dice to those different types of monsters, it's now adding a die to green monsters as well as an automatic shield symbol. So you can see where the things can get better and better as you choose to upgrade them, but remember that you're also going to be increasing your level, so you might not want to upgrade your lower level items. You might want to wait and try to upgrade the things that are a little bit more costly and might be more worth it. Overall, Lord of Loot is definitely going to provide one of those experiences where everyone is cooperatively trying to get stronger and cooler, where you start off at the beginning with absolutely nothing and you're going to really be able to feel that, but as you start gaining all of these different items and getting stronger and stronger, you're going to find combinations that you really love. You're going to find things that you're able to trade to friends. You're going to be upgrading your different weapons and shields. And something else that I thought was very interesting in this game is that where you are drawing from the different bags, you're also trying to deplete them. So particularly in my heart, there's the weapon and shield bag, where as you start going through it, you can start pulling things out, and when you choose to discard, you can either discard back into the bag or just discard it completely. So you can make the bag better and better, knowing that you're getting closer to those gold weapons and the things that are cooler because of what you're able to scrounge out of the bag. So players are able to really work cooperatively together with that you're not only looking for things for yourself, but if you have everything that you need, you might be able to find something for your friends as well. Now, the quests are also very cool where they give you something when you complete them. So not only are you going to be trying to work toward these different things to help your friends have an easier time taking out these different bosses, you're going to be rewarded for being able to do so as well. So this has been a preview of Lord of Loot by PKB Games. You can check out the Kickstarter link down below for everything that they have planned. I've been Professor Meg, and I will see you all next time. Bye!